You don't always get second chances, but thankfully for anyone who has areas to improve upon after yesterday, we've got race 2 at the ready. Porsche Sprint Challenge USA West by Yokohama hits the track one last time at Spring Mountain. I'm Joe Peak here with Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury and Carrera Cup driver Ashley Freiberg. Joey, this has been a fantastic track for racing. We saw that yesterday. Offers opportunities. It's very technical, though. But now the drivers are familiar. What's this change?
Well, I see the biggest difference is the weather, right? The temperature's a little bit warmer than what we had yesterday, but there is no cloud cover anymore, right? It is a sunny day right here outside of Las Vegas. So I'm looking at those temperatures. How are the drivers going to manage not only the track temperature, but also the temperature inside the race car? Remember, inside these race cars can get quite warm, so it's up to the driver and their physical fitness level to manage that whole race.
Well, and speaking of which, Ashley, we've got the second race, so you've experienced this. You've gone through the two-race weekend. What's going on with the drivers out there on track now after the experiences of the day prior?
Yeah, so after the race yesterday, you go over everything with your engineer, with your coach, and you analyze the race from start to finish and maybe areas that you did really well, things to maybe work on for today. And as we learned yesterday, that first couple of corners on lap 1 is super crucial to make positions right off the bat, because if you get stuck behind traffic, there's an opportunity for those cars in front to build a bit of a gap. So today they are starting on fresh Yokohama tires, so you have stickers to start. So on these formation laps as well, you want to make sure you get some good temperature in the tires, the pressure's up and ready for turn 1, lap 1.
And thankfully it was a very clean race yesterday, so we have all 13 drivers starting this one. And with 2 pace laps, probably about time that we go through our starting grid for today's race. And here is how it will look. Luke French on the pole once again in the 992 Cup cars. Brandon Hankins to his outside. We'll see Mark Wilgus starting in 3rd. Daniel Hanley down in 4th. Can he repeat the heroics of last time? And Doug Brandt as well coming in from 5th. Michael Londo to his outside. And Mark Krigler winds up our 992 Cup class. Joey, why don't you take us through the Caymans?
Yeah, we got those Cayman GT4s, and it is led by the race winner yesterday, Henry Marshall, in that red, white, and black number 78. Lined up next to him is going to be David Bradshaw in 2nd place. Tom Rogers is going to be in 3rd with Greg Herback in 4th. Jack Perriott in 5th, and Tim Smith starting in the 6th position. That's going to round out our 6 Cayman GT4 cars. I'd keep an eye on that number 70. Tim Smith was quite fast yesterday.
Absolutely. It was kind of the big talking point, and we were able to catch up with him this morning, Ashley, and it sounds like he's very focused on the start of this race. He doesn't want to get caught behind like last time, because it seemed like that made such a big difference on the outcome of last race.
Yeah, absolutely. Though it does look like he has his work cut out for him being back in row 3. So he's just going to have to be smart and read the traffic and try to make those positions as soon as possible while being smart about it.
I think some of our graphics may have been wrong on that, so apologies. But we'll try and see if we can get you up to speed on that in a moment. But, yeah, I believe Smith and guys like Hanley are going to be starting maybe just a little bit farther up than what we had reported. But we're getting ready for the green pretty soon, halfway through our 2nd pace lap already. And again, last race of the weekend here before we head off for Sonoma out in California for round 2 here in the USA West Series. Joey, did you ever feel any butterflies before the race started, or were you pretty calm?
No, it was my happy place. The race car is my happy place. That's where I'm the most calm. So, no, I never really got that anxiety effect or the nerves. If anything, Joe, with the Hans on and the harness, you can take a nap inside that race car. It'll hold your head right where you need it to.
It's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. And drivers hopefully plenty comfy inside these cars here today, kicking off this 2025 season with beautiful weather, as we have been saying. Nice and sunny out here today, just starting in the morning time, just at the end of the morning time out here in the Nevada desert. It'll be 35 minutes plus 1 lap for them to compete, so don't expect any pit stops, at least scheduled pit stops for our drivers. If you are in there, then something has gone completely awry on your race. as it looks like we've now got him double file coming over toward us into the last few corners. The pace car will actually give way for French. He'll have control, but he must wait for the start zone, which we will see on the front straight, marked off by 4 cones. He cannot go before that, and drivers must stay in line, cannot overtake before they get past the start-finish line. Let's hope we get a nice, clean one down into turn 1. You can see they're starting both classes together here as they're now out of that final corner. Luke looking for those cones. There they are, just before the start-finish line, and there it is. He's on the accelerator. Green flag is out. It's down into turn 1, round the outside, trying to hold on to that second place. Hankins not wanting to give up that track position. Caymans look clean as well, and it looks like Smith might have made a move for the lead.
Yeah, on the outside of turn number 1, Tim Smith, who was the fastest Cayman yesterday, overtook Henry Marshall for the lead. Luke French is doing a terrific job right now to do exactly what he did yesterday as well, escape from the rest of the field.
Someone making a dive there at the back of the field, and the Caymans, thankfully they'll get away with that one. It's a double right-hander here at Badgers and down the back stretch into turn 5, all braking hard. One of the great opportunities to try and pass. Battle for P2 there in the 992 Cup cars, but it looks like Hankins will hold on to that as Wilgus is giving it everything.
Yeah, Wilgus is sitting there in the 3rd place, chasing down that white and red car of Hankins. As I mentioned, Luke is just kind of escaping out front, but this is the opening lap. Yeah, we had those 2 pace laps. You got to make sure the driver's brain is working right. Got to make sure those excellent Yokohama tires are up to pressures and up to temperatures, and then get on it.
And it looks like that might actually be Brant in there. Oh, no, excuse me. Our timing and scoring updating now. So it's just getting a few of the bugs sorted out as we get visual now coming down, and the 295 of Hankins is indeed ahead of Wilgus, so we were right on that first call. Brant down in 4th. Remember, he ran 2nd overall, but he is in the Masters class. That's those blue boxed car, numbers that you see on your tower. Everybody else is the Pro-Am in the black boxes, and then the yellow are your Pro-Am, Masters in the Caymans. Just behind them. Coming around to complete lap 1, Ashley, we get a nice clean start to this one.
Yeah, that was a mega start, especially by Smith there. He was running around the outside of turn 1 to try to make that pass for the lead, so super job by him. And then we've got Luke slowly inching away there, and behind him it's quite the mix-up compared to yesterday. We've got Hankins running P2, so...
Is that Hanley going by Brant that I just saw there? Ooh, big slide as well from Wilgus.
That was Brant going by Wilgus.
Oh, yeah, and then it's still
Hanley.
Yeah, it's still side by side. Lots of over-unders going through turn number 3 there. So, yeah, between Brant and Hanley, they are just kind of duking it out in a dogfight, almost side by side there again through turn 4.
That's going to be brave. It's so off camber through there. It's difficult to try and go wheel to wheel. Down the inside, late braking, and there's going to be contact down into turn 5. They both are able to get away with it, but no love lost between them, Ashley.
Yeah, that was interesting because they're in 2 different classes, those two. Brant is in Masters. Oh, it looks like he's slowing way down. He might have front-end suspension damage there. Easy to do if you end up hitting your front wheel on the car ahead, so... I'd imagine that's what's going on there.
That is a real shame this early on in the race. Looks like at least we don't have anybody stopping on the track at this stage, so we'll probably stay green out on the circuit. Up at the front of it, I can tell you that French is running away once again in the 992 Cup cars. Hanley in 2nd now with 250 of Wilgus sitting there in 3rd. And meanwhile, flashers are on for the 206 of Londo. Something has definitely gone wrong.
So
Londo was the guy who got in a little bit too deep into turn number 5 there, and I think he's just trying to notify all of his competitors. The car is not 100%. That's why he's got those hazards on and just letting everybody else know.
Yeah, Hanley got lucky there. It looks like he was hit in the door, so hopefully no damage to his car. He's currently running P3 in his class, so we'll see how it shakes out from here.
And you know, that was the 2nd lap going down into turn 5, Ashley. We talked about the tire warm-up process. How are these cars handling on lap number 2 at that point?
By lap 2, the tires should be up to temp. I would imagine that he just saw an opportunity in turn 5 here, but as we talked about yesterday, turn 5 brake zone is all downhill, so it looks inviting until you get to that brake pedal, and then you end up carrying a lot more speed than you thought, so it might have just been a misjudgment there.
Still got a little battle going on behind them. Top 3 are spreading out, but 4th and 5th with Hanley and Wilgus look like they're going to try and sort that position, getting awful close in the braking of 5. Wilgus not giving this one up. Remember, Hanley was battling with Hankins before, so he's probably got his eyes set forward. He doesn't want anything to do with Wilgus. He wants a higher position.
It's a familiar spot that he was in to yesterday, though, where just a car was kind of parked in his rearview mirror the entire time, and he did a terrific job not to make any mistakes. He held on to that position the entire 35-minute race. So, yeah, lots of pressure right now, but if we look towards yesterday, he can handle it.
I'm just checking the timing there on the Caymans. It's about a second and a half between Smith and Marshall, so he hasn't completely shot away in these first few laps. A little look down the inside from Wilgus in the 250 coming into Nighthawk, but a little bit too far back to try anything that time. Still, he remains close behind on Daniel Hanley, making sure that he cannot run away. And Joey, it looks like you've noticed something in the Caymans here.
Well, it's just an incredibly close race, really first through 4th place, and I think it might have been Tom Rogers there that had a little bit of a slip-up in turn number 10, just ran a little bit wide, so he lost just a little bit of track position right there. And I actually think, as I say that, Herback was trying to make a move on Rogers going into one of these corners down in Sector 3.
Yeah, so that is our leader on screen now in the Blue Angels machine, leading the way, still being chased by Marshall behind. And Rogers, has lost the position. Nice move by Herback coming into the last corner, Ashley. This is interesting because Herback looked a little bit off the pace yesterday, so I think his confidence is up.
Yeah, Herback is making some huge strides. I mean, he really only just started racing probably less than a year ago. So really cool to see his progression, and running P3 in class right now. It'd be awesome to see him on the podium.
Yeah, glad to see that continual improvement, figuring out where he can be faster. There is Herback in the number 49. Remember, new team. Oh, but he was way off the apex there coming into that corner. Not sure exactly which one that was, but was having a heck of a time getting it to turn in. I think that was turn 4 that he had that issue.
And speaking of that turn, because we get to drive the track when we come out here to the tower, turn 4 is so off camber. It really is just inviting the car to slide off the racetrack, if you will. And, actually looks like we got a little bit of a problem out there in that corner. Turn number 4, one of the Caymans is actually turned around.
So I think that might be Bradshaw that has lost it coming out of that double right-hander, but thankfully did not hit anything. He carries on. No problem there. And I think we have our first penalty, I think, of the weekend, honestly, in any of the races. 206, incident responsibility, drive-through penalty. That's not too great of a surprise.
And remember, that was the incident down in turn number 5 with Londo and Hanley. So, like you said, not really a big surprise there. I think that Hanley is probably happy. He just doesn't have any damage on that car right now, and he's still out there racing.
Londo is in pit lane right now. I suspect won't be able to serve that penalty since it seemed like that car was greatly damaged after that. That gives Brandt essentially free reign. He and Michael were the only two in that 992 Masters category. And, of course, Doug managed to run away with the victory yesterday with a pretty handy gap over his only competitor, in fact, finishing P2 out of everybody in the 992 Cup cars. So showed that doesn't necessarily have to be put in the Masters to be competitive.
That's what all these drivers are out here to prove, right? It's kind of the ladder up to Carrera Cup, if you will, or up to bigger and better racing with some more Porsches. And everybody's out here still learning, trying to master their craft of driving, master their craft of racing, and just learn a little bit each session and try to improve that position.
Here we've got Smith on screen once again in the 70, but we're checking back in with French as well, who heads down into turn 10 at Nighthawk, plunging through there. A little bit of a correction as it weaves around through the banking of the second half and then back up over the hill. This really shows how blind it is, Ashley, through this tortoise section.
Yeah, that section is super fast as well. Once you're coming up through those S's, it is full throttle. And then you have this brake zone where you're turning as well. So you have to be super careful under the brakes here to make sure you can still get a really strong exit coming onto the front straight.
Continues to lead. Gap is about 6.5 seconds over Hankins with 25 minutes plus a lap left to go. French, once again, looking pretty comfortable at this stage, but still has to execute the rest of this race. So I don't think we can count this one over by any stretch of the imagination quite yet. Was kind of checking in on that battle between Herback and Rogers because I noticed they were close on our timing. Joey, it does seem like that battle's not over necessarily.
I think it really is two different battles in that Cayman class. We've got our lead battle between Tim Smith and Henry Marshall, and then, like you just said, between Herback and Rogers. And also, don't count out Perriott. Perriott's only about 1.5 seconds back from that battle for, call it, third place right now. So a terrific Cayman GT4 field, albeit a little bit small, got some good competitiveness in it.
So French up and over the rise of turn 6 and into 7 once again as we give a look now at Smith using up plenty of the track. And that's Marshall not that far behind. So he did get by, but he's not running away. That's only a second difference.
So what we saw yesterday was Henry Marshall started on pole position, and he just managed the race from out front. It was really Tim Smith kind of getting held up by, I believe it was Rogers that he was battling with all day yesterday. And once he finally got cleared of his competitor, he hunted down Henry Marshall from about 8 seconds back or so. I do feel like Tim Smith is probably our fastest Cayman out here today, but Henry Marshall could have been in management mode yesterday. We're going to see what he's worth here today.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe this will be a little bit of a harder push up at the front between the two of them. Herback is gone by about 5 seconds down the road behind them in that 49. As we mentioned, he and Rogers still tight enough that we could have a battle there. But these two battle for the lead in the Cayman Masters category. The 78 of Marshall, yesterday's winner, stays glued to the back of the Blue Angels number 70 of Tim Smith. And looking forward to this because we kind of got robbed of it yesterday, Ashley, with Tim having to be stuck behind second place for so long before he finally did get to run him down. Oh! And he's off! A mistake from Smith, and Marshall gets it back with ease into the final corner. So if he still has that pace, he could try and run him back down. He stays in second place, Joey, but my goodness.
Yeah, just a mistake, a driving mistake. Got out a little bit loose and a little bit wide and had a little bit of a half spin out to the outside of the racetrack. Thankfully, he still holds on to second place, so he was able to regain right back in front of Herback. Just kind of a hole to dig himself out of now.
How difficult is that last couple sequence of corners, Ashley? Because I always thought that kink into that chicane looks diabolical to me.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly because you're heavy braking and turning at the same time. And you want to maximize your radius going into that corner as well because you're leading onto the front straight. So it's really, really tough to manage your braking there. And it's very easy to just barely drop a wheel. And the car is so loaded on that outside that once you drop a wheel there, you're kind of along for the ride.
And you know, I was talking about how fast Tim Smith was and how excellent Henry Marshall was able to manage yesterday. I thought that was a great example of it, right? A driver on the ragged edge that has a lot of speed versus a guy that's got a million laps around this place, his home track, and was able to manage it. Just saw the open door, that car going off the track, and took the lead.
So there you can see the gap between them on the tower on the left, about 5 seconds, 5.5 seconds to make up. We ride on board with Tim Smith. Herback did catch up quite a bit, but it looks like he's started to be dropped already as Tim gets his feet back underneath him. Up and over the crest here into 10 once again. Can't even see the leader now, but he did it once before yesterday. Can he do it again?
I think that's the key, is that he was in this same position yesterday, and it was actually a little bit later in the race that he finally got second position. But remember, today is a new day. Henry Marshall saw the pace from Tim Smith early on. He was right in those tire tracks, so he knows what he has to maintain out front. Just got to go out there and hit the marks now.
This is back to our leader in the 992 Cup cars. with Luke French, up to about 7.5 seconds. So, yes, it looks like his pace is pretty decent. Has the fastest lap in the 992s at a 1:51.7. And actually, wow, if I look at the best laps between himself and Hankins, he's got 1.3 seconds over him.
It's almost deja vu from what we saw yesterday. He had about a 1.1 second gap between fastest lap between him and the rest of the field. And what I've really found kind of astounding is he was able to hold that consistency nearly 1 second per lap faster than everybody else. So Luke French dialed in out here at Spring Mountain.
Well, I like that he's not just kind of resting on his laurels, Ashley, because he's clearly got the pace. He's not just puttering around. It seems like he's full tilt.
Yeah, he's definitely making the most of this situation and using it as a learning opportunity. I'm sure if Luke is kind of at that stage in his career where he wants to move up to Carrera Cup at some point. So this is a great opportunity to push every lap, work on consistency, and still looking for places to grow and be a better driver.
Definitely a young driver coming up through the ranks right now. Has had a season under his belt here in USA West with 2024, competed the entire season, returns in 2025 with almost a completely new crew of drivers around him compared to last year, and is not wasting the opportunity as we watch him come down to turn 5 here, looking for the braking, opening up this hairpin as much as possible. Just a little bit off the apex there, but no harm, no foul, as he just keeps ticking off the laps.
Was maybe in just a little bit too deep, but to kind of echo Ashley's point, if you're out front and you got the pace, yeah, turn this into a learning moment. Turn this into a test session. Can I go a little bit deeper here? What does the car need in terms of adjustments that I can relay that to the team and make this thing even faster for next time?
And now, I believe they're starting to get into a little bit of traffic. I think Bradshaw has been caught by some of our 992s, so this is going to change the dynamic as well out there. Not something that we typically see in the Sprint Challenge here in North America, because the North America Series has them separated, but the USA West puts them together out on track. It doesn't seem, Ashley, like there's very many long straights to try and deal with that traffic here.
Yeah, this track is definitely super busy. I mean, you have the front straight is probably your longest straightaway here, so timing the passing is really important. But what I'm really liking by the Cayman drivers is their spatial awareness. A lot of times they are pulling off to the side and letting these guys race hard and get through clean.
So far, just the lone retirement over the course of the entire weekend, honestly, for Michael Londo. Everybody else still out there and circulating. Watching from above now, seeing just how much track Luke French is willing to use down through 2 and into 3 before trying to navigate turn 4 off camber. You'll probably be able to see it here with this camera angle, just how much the car track dips off to the left.
Yeah, but using all of that exit curb, carrying as much speed as he possibly can, and tell you what, he was right on the apex that time through turn number 5. So last lap maybe kind of pushed it a little bit in the brake zone. This time kind of reeled it back just a little bit and nailed that corner.
Certainly looks like he's got this well under control at this stage. Fortunately, it does seem like many of our battles fizzled out a little bit here. Although I say that, I'm trying to see Smith and Herback have stayed relatively close. It does look like, there's only maybe about a second between them.
I was going to say, I think the drive of the day or turnaround so far is definitely Herback, because you had mentioned it maybe just a little bit unfamiliar yesterday during the race, but here in race number 2, he is right on the back of Tim Smith after Tim had that early mistake, so he's making the best of race number 2.
When I loved listening to the two of you yesterday, or it may have been Friday, I'm trying to remember at this point, but him coming from the skiing background, and I know you have a lot of experience in that realm too, and hearing the comparisons the two of you made about translating the knowledge of skiing into racing.
Well, it's easier to talk to a fellow racer, right? So if you've got that downhill background, he understands apexes, he understands turn-in points. It's just the energy management that's different, because in the ski world, you got gravity helping you. Here, you got a beautiful 4-liter just pushing you along at 500 horsepower.
And maybe a bit more speed than he's
Yes,
used to
that
as
too.
well. I did love last season. I asked him as soon as I found out he comes from a ski racing background. I was like, which feels more dangerous? And he said, definitely the skiing. He said he feels a lot safer in the car.
Well, I mean, in the car, you're surrounded by safety equipment, right? You got the roll cage, you got all your fire protection, you got the window nets. So, yeah, it can definitely feel pretty safe out there. As Tim Smith, he's still trying to hunt down Henry Marshall out front, and they've been doing pretty similar lap times. Like I said, I think the story today in that Cayman class is definitely Herback.
I would agree. And Ashley, I mean, looking at this, the 205 is off.
Yeah, and I saw that he had dipped a wheel in turn 3, and now he's off the racetrack on the exit of turn number 4. That's where we've seen a lot of those issues already happen. It is so off camber around that very, very long right-hander. Looks like he's going to get back out on the track, though.
Okay, I was going to say, if he retires, then I'm not sure what happens with the Masters class in this race. So hopefully he'll get to the checkered flag, although he's way deep down into turn 5.
And that's pretty normal. You just were off the track. Your tires are filled with dirt and probably some rocks around here. You're not going to have that maximum grip going into that next brake zone. So that's one that you can definitely learn from.
Well, before Brant gave us a little bit of drama, I was going to say I'm glad we're back to the Caymans here, Ashley. I'm impressed with Herback, not just because of the increase in pace. He's keeping up with Smith, who we saw was the fastest driver yesterday.
Yeah, he's doing an amazing job, and kind of what we talked about yesterday as well for Herback, take this as an opportunity to really learn from the faster drivers ahead, because Smith definitely is using a lot of the track. He's really maximizing these Caymans, so the more he can learn from Smith, I think the more he will just continue to move forward in this series.
Just trying to pick up every little tip you can, staying right behind that bright blue machine. Still seeing about a 5-second gap or so, maybe 6 seconds between Marshall and Smith up there. He's going to be kicking himself for that mistake, especially after such a great start to this one, stealing that lead away right into turn 1 and 2 of lap 1. But still keeping the pace up, still ticking the laps off, and the second place is still worth plenty of points in the championship.
I think if we're going to compare race 1 and race 2 so far, I think the drivers are a lot more aggressive today, right? They're trying to find those limits. They already have accomplished race number 1, and it was extremely clean. We've only seen that one little bit of contact here in race number 2 down at turn 5, but you can just see the drivers are more comfortable on this racetrack. They're more comfortable in their equipment, and what does that mean? The limit's being pushed a little bit further.
That almost looked a little off the apex there for Smith that time. Herback maybe a slight bit closer because of it as they go by the tower on the front stretch. And, looking very strong here, coming off of turn 1 up towards 2. He is actually gaining a bit here, Ashley.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Smith is starting to use his tires up a little bit. I've seen a couple slides by Smith in some of these corners. So Herback is just driving around on the racing line, keeping those Yokohama tires underneath him, and now definitely putting the pressure on Smith. And as we learned, hopefully Smith is focusing forward now and not looking too much in his mirrors.
He was definitely looking in the mirrors in turn 3. Saw him kind of take that defensive line into that earlier brake zone. Turn number 5, a little bit of a different story. I think he kind of felt a little bit more comfortable that Herback was not going to make a move. But, yeah, to your point, Ashley, he's feeling the pressure. It's a different situation than he was in yesterday. So he can go out there and try to take away that second place if Herback can.
I get the feeling that he feels like this is possible. What a story this would be if he goes from sort of back-of-the-pack finish yesterday to suddenly finding himself on the podium. And who knows? We've already seen a mistake from Smith. If Marshall has something happen and Herback gets by Smith, and there could be a win even on the cards. But it'll take maybe a little bit something more as he's going to go down to the inside. Takes the spot away. He's way deep. Cut back here from Tim Smith. Not able to get the spot back. We talked about learning, Joey. He used the same trick that Tim did.
You're right. That was the same move that Tim pulled on Tom Rogers yesterday, except this time it was Herback on Smith. And, I mean, talk about taking it super deep into the turn 10 brake zone, and the track just falls away. The car was squirming underneath them, but he hung on to it.
I loved to see that. I mean, Herbeck, that was the most aggressive pass I've seen him make. So great job hanging on to it as the track fell away. And now he's starting to pull away from Smith.
Well, and to his credit, Tim was talking to us before the race. He said he really wants to focus on keeping his equipment together. He doesn't really want to do anything to damage the car. So he probably saw that coming, realized that it's better if I don't fight this too hard.
I also just loved how the way Herbeck set him up. Remember on that prior lap, he got Smith to defend in a couple of those brake zones. So he knew that Tim was looking in that rearview mirror. He took the opportunity, and here he is in second.
This is such a great race from Greg today, but it's not over. We still got 10 minutes plus a lap left to go on the clock. So he'll come around this time ahead down into turn 5, P2 in the Cayman Masters class. Still haven't seen much change over in the 992 Pro-Am, by the way, for those wondering about how that class is going. French still leading, Hankins second. Of course, Hanley's into third overall, but Brandt having his spin does not affect the points over there since Brandt is racing in the Masters class. Of course, it does release Hanley a little bit to go chase after Hankins, but there's still 8 seconds between them, so it would take a massive push for him to reach that rear bumper.
And as we still watch this second place battle here just between these Caymans, Henry Marshall has done a complete 180 from the beginning half of this race. He was trying to get that lead away, and this time, once he got the clean windshield, I mean, there's no looking back. He's extended that gap several seconds, so talk about excellent management once again.
I don't think he was going to waste the opportunity this time. He's definitely trying his best to run away, and kind of interesting that it's not Smith that he's trying to run away from now. It is going to be from Greg Herbeck. I'll have to check and see what their lap times look like of recent date, because Marshall currently running a 58.8 last time by. Now, Smith, of course, had his overtake last time, so we'll wait to see what his most recent lap looks like, but he did run a 59.5 before.
And in a few corners here, they may be catching some lap traffic here, so this could make this battle for second place get interesting again.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Smith probably won't be too happy that he got mugged like that. Will want to try and take the opportunity to get back there. To his credit, he's still right there. Seem to be evenly paced between them. At least evenly paced enough. And he'll follow him down through turn 5. Just sticking to that rear spoiler, making sure that Herbeck knows that he's there.
And kind of to that point, I think I saw that Tim Smith is laying down some of his fastest laps of the race right now. If we look back towards race number 1, he actually set his fastest lap during the last lap, trying to hunt down the leader. So, yeah, maybe it's just a little bit of a mental reset out there. I know that these Yokohama tires and these Porsches can last well past this 35-minute sprint race, so it's really up to the driver to kind of extract that performance out of themselves and then let the car do its thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's more about that management. Both of them pushing hard down into Nighthawk and then accelerating out of this corner, sticking with him, trying to make sure that if there's any little hiccup, he can snatch that one right back. They'll break coming into that final corner. This is where Tim lost it initially, earlier on in this race, had his spin. This is where things kind of started to flow downhill for him.
Was nice and tidy right there, but so was Herbeck, and now we accelerate out onto the front straightaway, riding on board with Tim Smith here in this Cayman GT4. Looks like we're going to pass one of the slower cars. Nicely done to let his competitors by, not affect anybody else's race. And I think that's also one thing that a lot of the drivers have talked about. They don't want to interfere with somebody else out there on the racetrack.
I think that was Bradshaw, yeah, and it looked like he was doing a really good job of just making sure he doesn't mess up anybody's race, because he's trying to run his own, of course, and get the best out of this. He's got learning and growing that he wants to do and can garner from this event. Down through 4 once again, all the way out to the curbs for these two Caymans, trying to settle second place with 6 minutes plus a lap to go.
Tim Smith was pretty deep into turn number 5. Maybe it was a little bit deeper than Herbeck, but did a really nice job to kind of woe that car down to apex. And actually talking to him this morning, that was one of the areas that he felt that he might have overstepped a little bit and reeled it back in the back half of yesterday's race. So evidently he feels comfortable going down into turn number 5 again today.
I can report, looking at the lap times, Marshall last time was just over a second quicker than Herback, so not expecting him to be able to chase down and battle for the lead, obviously, at this stage in the race. He is more focused on that rear view mirror, although maybe not too much, as he wants to try and hit his marks each and every turn. Here comes the leader overall behind them, though. This could play a part.
This is an interesting dynamic, right? Because it's a battle for second place, so they're focused on what they are doing, and the overall leader in a faster car is coming up behind. I bet you Luke is going to be patient right here, wait for this final sector of corners, and then try to pass him on the front straightaway.
Yeah, the thing that they've got going for them, Luke has such a huge gap to P2 that he really doesn't have to interrupt this in a way that will affect it too badly. He just doesn't want to sit and wait forever. He's going to try and get by Tim into turn 1. Does so cleanly. He'll split them temporarily now.
And I bet you we're going to see Luke probably dive to the inside of turn number 3 if he can close it in on Herback right here in turn number 2. Let's see if he decides to be aggressive or a little bit more patient. He's going to opt for the patience route, and I think that's the smarter move. Like you just mentioned, he's got a huge gap to second place. There's no need to press any issue, and right here into turn 4, he's also going to sit behind that Cayman GT4 car. This is a driver with his head on his shoulders.
I'm guessing here into turn 5 is where we're finally going to see it coming up to the braking. He sends it down to the inside, and Herback sees him coming, but he leaves the door open. Smith thinks this is his opportunity, but he can't get the throttle down, Ashley. He stays in third.
Yeah, that was a close one there, but good job by Herback getting his position back.
Wow, that could have unraveled pretty quickly. Obviously, has to try and give way if he sees that car coming through, but did leave him a fair bit vulnerable. Another one of those lessons to be jotting down in the notebook post-race, Joey.
It's always a learning opportunity. It doesn't matter if you're in a battle next to each other, door banging. You can always learn from every single corner, every single lap out here on the racetrack. And Herback evidently learned a lot from yesterday. Yeah, it was a little bit nervous, call it, down there in turn number 5, leaving the door open for the overall leader, but thankfully he was able to close it soon enough as Tim Smith arrived on the scene.
Yeah, whenever you're approached with that type of scenario, knowing that it's a faster car coming by you, you can be right on their tail, right up against their door, and try to match their pace as much as possible, because ultimately the faster car will pull away, but then you won't lose any time.
It's a good point. And seems to have done it decently well as we cross the line once again. Remember, if you missed yesterday, the +1 lap means that we have to wait until the clock runs out. Then we will get the white flag next time by, after the clock has run out on the upper left of your screen. So the drivers still have a couple more to go out here in the desert, and then it's off to the Napa Valley to compete in Sonoma for race number 2, where they'll actually share alongside the North America Series as well as the Porsche Endurance Challenge.
It's going to be a busy weekend out there at Sonoma. I know a lot of these drivers are definitely looking forward to it, and especially after the racing that we've had here at Spring Mountain, carry that momentum or carry those learning opportunities into a couple weeks at a new racetrack and go out there and rinse and repeat.
Well, and speaking of learning and experience, Ashley, I understand that you got to take a lot of drivers that are in Porsches, maybe not these race cars as much, out on the track the other day.
Yeah, yesterday I was able to give some lucky riders some hot laps around this track in a 992 Cup car. So much fun to be able to share my passion with these future drivers. My favorite part was seeing them get out of the car afterwards with a big smile on their face. We had a few people jumping around cheering for joy. So that always touches me and makes my heart explode, because I have so much passion for this, and to be able to share that just means so much to me.
I love that. They're apparently going to be having more events later this year as well. We'll get you some more information on that a little later in the broadcast. So if you're hearing that and you say, I want to get in on that, you'll have opportunities. There is the QR code right now. So if you want to get involved, just scan that on your screen, and you can try and hop in the car with Ashley and see how quick of a lap she can take you around some of these fantastic North American circuits. 2 more laps to go for our drivers out on track with less than a minute now on the clock. And it is still Luke French leading, with Henry Marshall leading down to the Caymans.
Yeah, Luke has got a 14-second lead right now over Hankins in second place. The battle that we've got on the screen is, call it second place in that Cayman class. This is turn number 3 right here, this tight little left-hander, and then it opens up into that double apex right-hander of turn number 4 that is so off-camber. You see Tim Smith doing a really good job to kind of dissuade that GT3 Cup car behind him from taking a peek down inside. He wants to stay on the back of her back as much as he can.
Exactly. But that car is going to send it through, and it will compromise Smith this time. So he'll have to give way. Now he's going to try and stay tight. He saw it help him, at least almost help him last time through, so could be another one. Meanwhile, there goes the 215 of French, and trying to figure out where we are on track here. I think that's out of 9. Yeah, here we go. So, yeah, white flag going to be next time.
Yeah, Luca has done just a terrific job, just like how he did yesterday. He was on pole position, he got out front, and call it turn off the rear view mirrors, right? Don't even pay attention to anything behind you. Just focus forward, out the windshield, relay all of the information to the team. Tell them how the front end of the car is doing. Tell them how the back end of the car is doing. Turn it into a test session, and he has continued to click off the fastest laps out of anybody today.
Into that tricky braking of the final turn. Only has to do this one more time after this, because there we go onto the front straightaway. White flag held aloft on the stand. And just one more to go back-to-back to open up 2025.
And I saw that Henry Marshall, our Cayman leader as well, was on the front straightaway, so he just took the white flag as well. Only 1 lap remaining here at this Charleston Peak circuit.
Certainly has been an impressive performance out of French. You got to say Marshall really taking whatever comes his way, even if he doesn't necessarily have the speed initially, because he was having to try and attack on Smith to try and take that lead back. But it wound up falling in his lap anyways, and he hasn't looked back since. Luke French here, though, has just been unstoppable this weekend, has been one of the quickest cars in pretty much every session. It was definitely the fastest in qualifying, was the quickest in race 1, really wasn't hassled the entire time. Race 2, it's been more of the same. 15 seconds now, he's already got a gap over Hankins.
He's done a terrific job, and remember, when we talked to him on Friday, what was his goals for the weekend? He wanted to put it on pole and win the race. Well, he accomplished that yesterday. He's about to accomplish it a second time, and when we talked to him on the podium, he liked that winning stuff.
Going to try and keep doing it more and more down through Nighthawk for the final time. And then it is up through Tortoise. The weaving S's here that crest and dip at the end of the lap. Nice and easy for him. Doesn't need to really push it from here. Just need to bring it to that checkered flag and get to enjoy the podium ceremonies in a few moments' time. The last chicane, a right and then a left for the 215 of Luke French, and he opens the 2025 season with back-to-back wins here at Spring Mountain.
Excellent race from Luke French. Henry Marshall is on the front straightaway as well. That's the Cayman class leader. He is going to make it 2 for 2 as well. Perfectly managed from out front. Henry Marshall back-to-back.
Very impressive out of Henry, but I think even more impressive from Greg Herback, who is coming to the line as well here. He's still got that spot, and yeah, there it is right there. Crosses the line, narrowly ahead of Tim Smith, who will at least get back-to-back podiums, but a second and a third for him with some work to do. Last of them coming across the line. Looking for Doug Brandt out there, because he is our winner in the Masters. He hasn't taken the checkered flag yet. Where did he go, actually?
He's just coming onto the front straight.
There we go. There we can see him on screen now. So congratulations to Doug Brandt, going back-to-back wins as well in the Masters category here today. And congratulations, of course, to Hankins and Hanley, also managing double podiums this weekend. Well, that was an interesting race there, Joey, because it was a very different dynamic from the first one.
Totally different than yesterday. I think that the drivers yesterday were just trying to kind of feel out all of their competitors, get to know everybody, get to know this Spring Mountain racetrack as well, and then come into race number 2. It almost seemed the gloves came off type of thing. It was much more aggressive, especially in the opening half of the race. We saw a few cars spin off the track just from pushing those limits. So, yeah, talk about a different race, too, to compare to what we saw yesterday.
And Ashley, thank you for joining us. I always love having your expertise, and especially at a track that you know extremely well.
Yeah, I love being up here with you guys, and yeah, great racing today by everybody. You know, Daniel Hanley, great to see him on the podium after that early contact, and yeah, again, huge kudos to Greg Herback. That was definitely, I think, a highlight for him and a good confidence boost moving forward.
Well, let's take a look at our results for today's event. And Luke French, there you can see, finishes with the win over Brandon Hankins by about 15 seconds. Daniel Hanley, P3. Mark Wilgus will come home in 4th. And it's Doug Brandt, your winner in the Masters, 5th overall. Mark Krigler will be P6. Henry Marshall, it says 1 lap down, but that's because he's in a different class. He's our winner in the Cayman Masters. Greg Herback behind him in 2nd with Tim Smith in 3rd. And Tom Rogers coming home in 4th. Then from there, it was Jack Perriott, who was 5th overall in the Caymans, and Bradshaw coming home in 6th in the Caymans. Londo, our only DNF for the weekend. Very clean racing. We're not done yet. We have the podium ceremonies coming up in just a moment's time, so stick around.
driving the number 70, it's Tim Smith. Finishing P2 with an impressive charge up through the field, it's the number 49 of Greg Herbeck. Going 2 for 2 on the weekend, our winner was the number 78 of Henry Marshall.
Henry, I'll climb up here next to you, talk to you a little bit here. You've just made it 2 for 2. You won yesterday. A little bit of a different story today. You had to go and earn it.
Yeah, good start today. We had to earn first place, keeping it smooth. Tire management towards the end, it paid off.
How much does the track knowledge really pay off in situations like this where you got a bunch of fast drivers around you, but you're just able to manage that pace?
Oh, being my home track has it has its advantages.
Well, congratulations on the second win of the weekend. Go celebrate.
Let's hold those trophies up. And now it's the part everybody loves. It's time to spray the champagne. Cayman Masters podium finishers. Now it's time for the Good Boy Vodka Fastest Lap Award. If Tim can hang around for just a second. The Good Boy Vodka Fastest Lap goes to the number 70 of Tim Smith. Congratulations to Tim. This, of course, brings us to the 992 Masters. Starting with second place, it was the number 206 of Michael Londo. Then our winner, driving the 205, Doug Brandt.
Congratulations, Doug. You've now made it 2 for 2 here this weekend. You pushed the limits of the car a little bit more today, though.
Yeah, I was trying to keep up with the leaders a little bit more. Had a really good start, so I had a lot of fun on the first, 4 or 5 laps, and then got a little aggressive and learned my lesson and brought it home, though. So happy with that. Had a lot of fun.
How much did that transfer of information from yesterday go into race 2 today?
Yeah, a lot. I'm new to this and trying to build every single time, just like everybody. So trying to be a little more aggressive, but gotta keep all 4 wheels on the track. So have fun. Thanks for everything.
Congratulations, Doug. Time to celebrate.
Let's hold up those trophies. And we'll swap the hats out. And now you can spray the champagne. Doug immediately tries to find his team. Oh, whoa. Party foul for Doug. Congratulations to our podium for the 992 Masters. This brings us to the Apexon Award. Today, That goes to the driver of the 243, Daniel Hanley. The Apex Award goes to the hard charger of the race. And last but not least, this brings us to the 992 Pro-Ams. Starting off with third place in the number 243, Daniel Hanley. Finishing P2 today in the 295 machine, Brandon Hakens. Another set of back-to-back wins for our victor, the 215 of Luke French.
Luke, another back-to-back. You know, you took pole position. You took the race one victory yesterday. You liked the winning stuff. Well, here it is again.
It's great. I came here exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to win everything, and I did. So I'm very happy about that.
Does this give you momentum looking forward to the rest of the rounds this season?
Yeah, I'm excited for next round in Sonoma because Sonoma's a track that I'm not the best at, but I'm really excited for it.
Well, congratulations. Awesome performance here this weekend.
Now, of course, it's time to spray the champagne. Congratulations to the 992 Pro-Am Podium finishers. That concludes our racing for this weekend at Spring Mountain. We'll be back for the USA West Series as well as the North America Series when we head off to Sonoma.